Hello, my name is Audrey, and I am a background and layout artist at Pencilish, and I'm working on Juju Brain. So with most of my backgrounds, I tend to just kind of sketch out some characters, kind of just either chilling or a story moment, and it mainly inspires me on what kind of environment I would want them to be in. So today, with this background, it's kind of just like an attic space. I thought maybe that they would have like a secret hideout in the attic and just bring a bunch of snacks and set up big bags and like sleeping hammocks and little string lights, just stuff that I kind of would do if I had a secret hideout in my attic. I like to play around a lot with new pencils, so if I do more of these videos, there'll be different types of pencils and brushes that I try to use, because I want to, part of my job is just figuring out what everything's going to look like. And so it means playing around with new things, either something that I'm either comfortable with and that I like to use a lot, or something new that sometimes I like to steal from other artists. I work with Maddie, who is the character designer for Juju Brain, and these are some of her earliest concepts of Juju and Chris, and it's really helpful is just looking through all of her amazing art and then just stealing it for my own pieces, so I credit her for that. When I was designing this attic, I just kind of thought of things that I would put in, or that I would see in my attic. A lot of that was just like random boxes with labels that don't really mean anything, and old creaky floorboards and posts. Slanted attics, I had a lot of those growing up where you could barely even walk through them, and old workout equipment, because everyone buys workout equipment and then never uses it, so it just gets put in the attic. And old Christmas decorations. I definitely knew I wanted those to be in here. But I wanted to kind of create a story of Juju and Chris kind of moving all that aside to create this like little fort. And I love string lights. I love drawing string lights in any spaces. I think most artists do. It's such a good way to add in very soft lighting. As you can see here, I have I have problems with knowing which layer I'm on, so I constantly have to like go in and double check to make sure all my line work is on the right layer. And I have to fix that as I'm going along. But I make sure that certain line work that I want to focus on, so like Juju and the backpacks and the food is all on one layer. As you can see, it kind of blinking on and off. And make sure that that's on one layer, so that if I change anything on the background, it doesn't change the main scene that I want to keep. So it's just me double checking to make sure that all my line work is on the right layers, and just filling in the background. Putting a little TV, some more boxes, some random rope, and finally filling in the ceiling and the floorboards, cleaning up here and there. And this is kind of a more sketchy. My final line work tends to be a little sketchy, not super clean, which makes it really fun to color, in my opinion. I don't know why. I sometimes enjoy it more. It gives a little bit more room for, if I do make a mistake, it looks purposeful, or I don't know. So I'm just shifting stuff around, making sure that lamp was a difficult one, but I wanted it to be there, so it kept it. Now I'm moving on to color, which is my favorite part. I love color. Let's see. I wrote down some notes. Like I said, I love coloring and lighting. I tend to usually block in my shapes and figure out kind of my colors. A majority of my work, I like to start with the coloring. A lot of people like starting with values to make sure that all of their shapes and are seeable. But I usually just do that with this stage and just filling out the shapes that I already have with the colors that I want. And I'm constantly changing them. I'm constantly changing my colors, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's just my process. Which is really nice when working digitally, because it's really quick and easy to change like the slightest color with either an overlay layer or just changing the color with a wheel, or using, I don't know, multiply layers are also really fun. So I like to play around with all those different types of things. As you can see, little blushies, those are my favorite, on the ears and the knees. And Chris, I don't know if you can tell, it's really tiny, but the book that's on Chris's face is a Nancy Drew book, because Maddie loves Nancy Drew, and I thought that would be a fun little touch in this painting. I like adding little personal things to a lot of my backgrounds, because, I don't know, if I'm going to be looking at it for a long time, I like to look at a bunch of little fun things, and I figured other people would as well. So it's the Nancy Drew book is, I think it's called Ghost in the Attic, which is perfect for this attic scene. So now I'm done with the main, blocking in the shapes of the main characters, and kind of changing up their tones, making sure that everything's pretty consistent with the lighting. I want to make sure that they're not too lit, because it is a dark space, but that they're bright enough where you can see everything that's going on. And finally coloring the lamp. This was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole painting, is figuring out this lamp. I like, with lighting, I really like golden warm lighting. You'll probably see that a lot in my art. But most of the time I use an overlay layer. If you use Procreate, it's really easy to find those. I kind of play around with overlay and vivid lighting, and just kind of bouncing off between those two. And I use, I think for the lamp, I used more of a peachy overlay to blend it outwards, and then a vivid light on the center to make it really bright. But that may not be at all what I did. I think I'm just trying to remember for the most part. And so now I'm just blocking in kind of mid-ground stuff that's going to be semi-background. And this rug. This rug was my least favorite, but favorite part, one of my other favorite parts. I just could not figure out the colors or the shape. If I wanted a pattern on it, it felt too busy. You gotta put it in Christmas ornaments. You gotta. Yeah, like I said before, I was just thinking of different things that are usually in my attic, and we have so many of those clear tubs with Christmas ornaments in them that we never use. My family has tons of those, and Christmas wreaths just stacked onto different boxes. And I don't know if anyone else has this, but those owls that you put out in your yard to like ward off birds or other like squirrel rodents, I have like 2 of those in my attic too. I just think that they're really funny, and so whenever I go into my attic, I always see them and get freaked out, but then I remember that they're just plastic and not real. Anyway, that's way off topic of the artwork. So yeah, I'm just filling in all of my shapes, colors. Finally putting in the main background and just changing up the colors to make sure that everything is still viewable. I also love using purple a lot in my shading, and so I kind of just put a little bit of purple into the background to push it back a little bit more. And with each piece I've done, I kind of play around with whether or not, I use line work. Do I block in my colors first and use line work? Do I do my line work first and then color? And then whether or not we want to use color lines or just all black lines. Do we want sketchy? At least for Juju Brain, do we want sketchy line work, which usually kind of looks a little bit grainy, or do we want pretty clean line work like it was made with an ink pen? And so I've just been playing around with that and seeing what works best. what Tom likes and what the creator of Juju Brain likes. I sometimes send them to Maddie to see what she thinks, if there's anything that she notices that I need to change. And so right there, I noticed that the center of the piece was not as bright as I would have liked, so I just added a huge block of yellow right dab in the center, just to highlight where I wanted the eye to go. And now I'm just putting last minute touches, changing up the colors, fixing some shadows here and there, and that's the finished piece. Thank y'all so much for watching this. Bye!